me take this opportunity to welcome all of you to the 20th edition of OpenSource India conference. This has been the second time for me to do the keynote in this conference, and I'm really thrilled to be here with all of you today. And I strongly believe conferences like this provides a platform for all of us to amplify and share knowledge, share the power of open source technology every year, right? Thanks for being here, being early as well. I see a lot of people are still turning in, right? Today my session is going to mostly focus on open source AI ML, what AWS is doing on the open source AI ML space, and what's the India opportunity that we all should participate, be part of, and be proud of as well. I'm going to start with a small video. So, audio is not coming.
But trust me, there are a lot of.
Are you guys able to hear okay?
Like what?
Like.
Alexa, play my podcast.
When you heard that, did that surprise you? That seems exciting.
We need an Alexa dog collar. 4 dogs.
Ordering dog food. Ordering dog
You
food.
can bark all you want. I'm not paying for any more dog food.
Ordering gravy. Ordering sausages.
Hey, you better cancel that order.
Alexa hot tub. A sucked.
Alexa, play music. Okay.
And then there was the incident.
Wait, that was you guys.
I don't know, was it?
Powering down. Powering up. Powering down.
She says she's doing it, but I don't see anything to you. Holy.
I'm not talking to you.
Good. So, with this video, I just wanted to highlight, we all know that very commonly used, very familiar statement today in our industry is AI/ML is the new normal. You guys agree with me on this? We hear this very commonly or not? AI/ML is the new normal, right? If I really talk about Amazon, we have been investing and practicing on AI/ML for more than 2 decades. If I go back to the history basically, right? If you look at some of the images on the slide, the first thing is our entire e-commerce recommendation engine uses AI/ML services. Our fulfillment centers, supply chain optimization, capacity planning uses AI/ML models to deliver the best to our customers. Alexa, all of you, I'm sure many of you must be using at home today as well, right? Billions of transactions every week using Alexa to manage our office, our homes, of course, various informations as well as music. Again, running on AI/ML. Last but not the least, the Prime Air, our drones, or Amazon Go. How many of you have heard of Amazon Go? Right? Completely, as a customer, you could get into any of the retail shop, pick up your items from the shelf, and go out of the store without really checking out, right? All uses deep learning techniques, leveraging AWS services to deliver the best to our customers. So why I am telling this? Even though the industry thinks AI/ML is the new normal, for Amazon, it has always been the normal for us, right? So today, I'm going to structure with this backdrop my session into 3 important points. Point number 1, what is the AWS vision for India and for AIML. What AWS is trying to do in India and in AIML. That's the first part I am going to talk about. The second part I am going to talk about what are the emerging trends that we see in AIML today and how AWS is geared up to address those opportunities. And the third part of my presentation is going to focus on how can we help all of you to get started with open source AIML that we have been propagating. So those are the three parts that I am going to talk about. Let's start with the first one. The first one is what is the AWS mission for India and for AIML. To start with, what is AWS's India mission today? We want to empower businesses and builders to build a better India. Let me say it again. We want to empower businesses and builders to build a better India. All of us know India is today one of the world's largest open market to serve one of the largest open market for the technology companies to serve, right? And at AWS, we strongly believe that we want to be the driving force to make that happen. How do we really do that? Of course, AIML is the first entry point for us. And just to add on with the India mission, what is AWS AIML mission in India basically? We want to put machine learning models, machine learning at the hands of every developers, every data scientist, every business owners, so that organizations can adopt technology faster, better, and drive their transformation agenda, right? And that's what we come to work for every day. As we all know, if we really take a little step back, what has been really happening on the AIML space? Few years back, if you really look back, AIML was predominantly centered around few large tech companies or core research organizations, right? But with democratization of technology, with power of cloud, today if you really look at, AIML has really moved from a aspirational technology to more a mainstream technology, and that has really happened very, very fast. And if you really look at what the industry experts really talking about AIML, some of the numbers, and these numbers are really very hard hitting as well, right? If you look at one of the research done by IDC says, IDC did a survey of around 2,620 business owners. And from that survey, what IDC figured out that 90% of those business owners are talking about AI being extremely critical for their business success. In the same time, the survey done by Gartner says almost 80% of executives within the organizations are thinking about AI automation to take any business decisions. And as all of us probably know, many of the organizations' automation strategy is today actually driven by AIML, right? At the same time, the third data point that Gartner has highlighted, many of us think that probably one of the barriers is really skill, but surprisingly the outcome that the survey done by Gartner came out is basically 72% of the business decision makers are talking about talent is not really a barrier for AIML adoption. And the industry really complements those numbers that I was talking about. If you look at today, the global spending of AIML is going to be $204 billion by 2025, right? So large market space to play up, right? In the same time, 75% of enterprises, as per the research done by Gartner, it has been found that 75% of the enterprises are going to shift from piloting to operationalizing or executing AIML engagements by 2025, right? 75% of the organizations, large adoption there. In the same time, if I talk about one of my favorites, which is NASSCOM's data point, right? All of us know NASSCOM's prediction is by 2025, India's GDP is going to be how much? Anyone? $5 trillion, right? So out of those $5 trillion, NASSCOM has predicted nearly $500 billion is going to be driven by data and AI. So that's the India opportunity that we are sitting on today, and where we have real opportunities to go after and make the businesses successful and make the country successful as well, basically. More interestingly, the NASSCOM data point says, out of those $500 billion that we have today, 42% of that GDP is attributed by 3 industries. Financial services, number 1. Number 2, retail. Any guess what could be number 3? Anyone? Just a guess. Most surprisingly, it's agriculture, right? The 3rd largest GDP is going to come from the agricultural industry, basically, right? And that provides probably enormous opportunity for India, even in the rural part of India. And you could see some of the changes happening today, basically, in that context, right? And what AWS is going to do with all those opportunities that's lying ahead of us, what AWS is going to do. Little pedigree of AWS, right? Today, we have 100,000 plus customers who are using AWS AI ML services. Large number of customers, right? I already talked about 20 plus years of AI ML experience starting from building Amazon.com. Our mission is to make every developer become 10x productive, right? Every developer becoming a 10x developer, utilizing the AI ML capabilities that we are trying to drive. And today, we have hundreds of algorithms as well as machine learning models that's available on AWS Marketplace, what makes us poised to drive our customers' transformation agenda in coming days, right? And this is a select list of Indian customers. I talked about 100,000 plus customers. This is not all the list of customers, but I just wanted to let all of you know that most of the digital native companies, most of the innovative companies in India today are running on AWS AI/ML services. This is just a selective list, right? Good. So with that, the opportunities that's in front of us on AI/ML services, I'll now shift to the second part of my presentation, which is what are the emerging trends in AI/ML. If I look back about the emerging trends on AI/ML, the 3 things that I have seen from my experience in last 1.5 years, there are 3 distinct patterns that's emerging. The first one is all about augmented hyper-automation. And then the second one is all about scaling with speed. And the third one, of course, no-brainer, every one of us are talking about that today, which is creative and generative AI, right? Let me quickly talk about augmented hyper-automation. What exactly we are doing here? Augmented hyper-automation is all about automating your manual tasks, completely making your entire operation zero-touch, complete operational optimization, leveraging the automation capabilities, right? If I talk about some of the customers that we have worked today, Indicom, for example, right? Indicom automated their mortgage loan lifecycle application and modernized it to the AWS cloud platform and processed 1.2 million pages in 10 days with 98% accuracy, right? That's the power of AWS AI/ML services that we are trying to drive. Closer to home, Bajaj Allianz, right, the general insurance company, their entire claims processing system was automated, again using AWS AI/ML services, and there Bajaj Allianz achieved 100% compliance in claims disbursement, right? That's the level of augmented hyper-automation that we are trying to drive for our customers. Coming to scaling with speed, this is very, very important basically, right? As we all know, with the large machine learning models that we are talking about today, you need the computing powers that should complement, because we know that all of those analyses are very, very resource intensive process basically, right? So UB, what we did there, we completely automated end-to-end their business processes utilizing MLOps. As you see on the slide, time taken for production rollout of deep learning models reduced from a few weeks to less than 24 hours for UB. Same thing, Observe.ai, complete automation of their contact center, call center processes, right? That enabled increasing 10x in their processing time with 2 years and 50% reduction in ML model development efforts, right? That's the power of business benefits. That's the power of value realizations organizations can get by leveraging AI/ML services. Okay, so now I will probably little slow down and talk less, and I'll request all of you guys to see maybe the next 3 slides that I have. What comes to your mind when you see this slide, these images on the screen? Anyone? Yeah? Okay. The truth is that the images that you see on the screen are not real. Can you believe this? Yeah? Yeah, these are not real basically, right? But look at the feeling. Did you guys even realize that it's not real? No, right? Let's look at the next image. What comes to your mind with this slide? Again, these are not real interiors, right? And the third thing, look at this. Just look at the eyes of the tiger and whiskers of the tiger basically. You see the difference? Right? All done through leveraging AWS AI/ML services by doing the upscaling basically, right? That's the power of AI/ML today and the generative AI that we are talking about. Yes, but I think we can have some offline discussion on that. With Stability.ai, which is one of our partners, we have kind of cracked that as well, right? So I'll tell you the what we call as stability diffusion. We can talk about that basically, right? Okay, good. So little background on generative AI. We all know that traditional AIs were based on seeing the world, observing the world, and classifying the world. You all agree to this? But in generative AI, what changed from the traditional AI? It's all about generating things on the world, right? Your language model got translated to generating the code. Your image model got translated to generating the pixels. Today, you can search on an emoji and get a video automatically, right? You can type maybe a dog driving a car in the city and you can get a video out of that, right? That's all about the power of generative AI today, which deals with your content, your ideas, your conversations, your stories, your music, all leveraging what we call as large language models or LLMs. And if you really look at what our customers are really looking at today, 4 things. Our customers are looking at generating AI-powered applications on AWS. They're looking at what is the most easiest way to build those applications, flexibility to build, as well as most important part, right? Price, performant, infrastructure. These are the 4 key asks that every customer I talk to is really looking at today. And to address that, what is AWS approach? We take a 4-layer approach to address the customer needs when it comes to generative AI. What are those 4 layers? The first layer, the bottommost layer, is all about creating that AWS has created, which is a customized silicon chip, what we call as Trenium and Infantia 2. Any of you heard of Trenium and Infantia here? Okay, quite a lot of people, good. So that's the customized chip that we have done at the bottommost layer basically, because we know that when it comes to large language models, large amount of data processing, you need those chips to give you the power of analytics, right? The second layer I'll come to. Second layer is all about a service that we call as SageMaker. How many of you heard of SageMaker? Good, we have quite a lot of people, right? So what SageMaker does? Manage services and open source models to build your foundation model. That's what is the role of SageMaker today. That's the second layer. And third layer, which we kind of GA'd now, what is called as Bedrock. Anyone? Bedrock? Practice Bedrock? Okay, quite a few as well, right? So Bedrock gives power to the developers so that developers can access various models to build their generative AI powered applications. That's the third layer. The fourth layer is all about what we call as a service, Code Whisperer. Anyone tried Code Whisperer in the past? Good. So many of you have tried. Good. That makes me happy as well, right? So Code Whisperer. Code Whisperer gives the power to the developers. It recommends the best code possible on the language and on the IDE of the developer's choice, on the IDE of the builder's choice. So 4 layers, generative AI approach for AWS, silicon chips, Trenium and Infantia, SageMaker, second layer. Third layer is all about Bedrock, and fourth is Code Whisperer. That's what we try to do when it comes to generative AI using AWS services, right? Bedrock I talked about, right? What does really Bedrock do? First of all, the biggest capability of Bedrock is providing you choice of foundation models. Maybe that has come, the choice probably has come from our lineage, from our retail background, where we give choice to our customers to do a lot of e-commerce on our e-commerce site. Maybe that has come from there. But today, if you are using Bedrock, you have choice of different foundation models, right? You have the choice of leveraging foundation models from AI21 Labs, right, which is Jurassic 2, or Cohere, where you can have command plus embed, Stability AI I was just talking about, right, Stable Diffusion XL 1.0, Anthropic Cloud is again today available as part of Bedrock services, and Amazon has its own foundation models, what we call as Amazon Titan. I'm not going to talk about what all of these models do, but what I wanted to really say that today you have choice of leveraging various foundation models within Bedrock, starting from your localization to generation of unique, realistic, high-quality images to dialogues to conversations, right? Everything is available today, packaged today within one particular service that we call as Bedrock. In the same time, coming to the open source models, which are publicly available models, I'm sure many of you maybe already practice some of those models, right? The list really goes on, right? Starting from AI21 Labs to Meta. In fact, Llama is going to be part of Bedrock very soon. It's work in progress at this point of time. Cohere, Hugging Face, right? Stability AI, Lighton, Databricks, and of course Alexa, right? So there are plenty of choices available if you are taking AWS approach of utilizing your services, building your generative AI based applications, leveraging the publicly available open source models that's available readily for you to use today. Okay, I talked about Trenium as well as Infantia. Look at the benefits that Trenium and Infantia really provides. Of course, if you go back to the history, maybe 12 years back, AWS was the first company who introduced NVIDIA GPUs into cloud world basically 12 years back, right? And the story didn't really stop there. We have come a long way. Today you have Trenium and Infantia, and if you talk about Trenium, it can give you 50% savings on training cost, training your models, right? The cost that you spend on training your models over any comparable Amazon EC2 instances. If I talk about Infantia, you can get up to 40% better price performance than comparable Amazon EC2 instances, right? So the whole idea is basically enabling developers, enabling builders to focus on what is core and completely keep the infrastructure agnostic to them and manage it in an automated fashion basically, right? Without really worrying about what really happens to the infrastructure and the processing power or the computing power. That's the mission we are trying to drive in AWS today. I talked about Code Whisperer, right? Today, if you look at most of the services companies are using Code Whisperer, right? It provides you recommendation on writing the best code in your platform of choice, your IDE of choice. That really improves your productivity and give you a lot of cost benefits as well, basically, right? So if you have not tried Code Whisperer, I will strongly recommend all of you guys to try it once and see the beauty of these services that we have. Good, so that's basically the trends that we are looking at. Just to summarize, augmented hyperautomation, scaling with speed, and third one is all about creative and generative AI. Now the last part of the presentation I am going to focus on, how can we help you to get started with the AI/ML services, right? Again, probably I will take a back seat and start asking you a few questions. What do you see? What do you see on this slide? What comes to your mind? Any thoughts? You guys feeling good looking at this slide? Yeah? So this slide is actually not mine. I have borrowed it from one of my customer, which is an insurance company called AXA. This picture was first time used by AXA's CIO, Peter Nautilus, in AWS New York Summit, right? When AXA started to embrace their AI/ML journey, AXA was almost feeling like the toddler that you see on the screen, right? And the floaty swimming ring that you see around the toddler, that's nothing but AWS. AWS was there to provide AXA the learning experience. Many times when trying out new things, we do a lot of analysis, we do a lot of whiteboarding, right? But I strongly feel instead of doing all those analysis paralysis, what I call, best way to learn is actually to jump, right? And while jumping, you see the smile on the toddler's face. Learning AI/ML is really, really fun, right? And it's easy. So let's get started with that. Today, there are a lot of free contents available. You can use AI Use Case Explorer. The link is there on the slide, right? To try out what really AWS provides on the AI/ML and Gen AI space. There are quite a lot of use cases that can fit to your business requirements, your customer requirements, right? Multiple use cases, and these lists are ever increasing. So my call to action for all of you will be to start with, if you have any need, engage with AWS deep scientists who could help you on this journey. There are plenty of learning materials available that you can make use of. The last one is, if you are more focused on generative AI, just go try out AWS Skill Builder, right? And explore the Gen AI specific training programs. That's available today for all of you to make use of. So why I am talking about this, there are a couple of important tenets that we need to be very aware of, and I'm sure all of you being from technology world probably practicing those, but I think I should reiterate that. First point is all about, we know that when we are taking a digital transformation journey, there is no start line and there is no end line, right? It's very, very continuous. So we need to really become flexible enough, agile enough to scale and meet the growing needs of our customers. Point number one. Point number two, I talked about democratization of technology. Every company today is a tech company. You guys agree to this? A bank is not a bank today. A bank is actually a tech company with a banking license. We need to really start operating in that mindset going forward from here. The third part, those of you deal with customers, I'm sure most of you probably, right? Indian customers are beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied. Even if they say you they are happy, even if they say you their business is doing good, inherently they are not happy. You guys agree to this or not? Have you guys experienced this? Okay, good. So why I'm telling this? Because that gives us an enormous opportunity for all of us incredible opportunity for all of us to innovate, right? Fourth, no-brainer, low cost, lower risk of curiosity that every one of us, including our customers, are looking at. The fifth part is all about delivering with speed with lower cost. Have you seen any customer who is not looking at delivering twice the speed and half the cost all the time? Right? We need to prepare ourselves for that. If you are not doing that, then probably somebody else is going to do that for our customer, right? Keep that in mind. The last point is all about experimentation. Do not really hesitate to experiment, and of course cloud provides enormous opportunity to experiment, iterate and try out new things to make our customers' business very, very successful, right? So with that, my request to all of you will be, let's start this generative AI journey today, leveraging all the trends that I talked about, all the large language models that I talked about, open source as well as AWS models, and start working towards identifying a potential use case. Engage AWS to accelerate a pilot opportunity, a proof of concept opportunity. And the third point is, let's make it actionable, right? Focus on deploying at least one GenAI use case in production in the next 60 days. Think about this. All the supports that you need from AWS will be available to you. Let's give it a try, and all of those are open and freely available. So I do not think why we should not embrace this journey. Good, so that's all I wanted to really share with all of you guys. Thank you very much.